Thank you so much for listening to Give It to the People Live. We appreciate every one of our listeners. We want to make sure that you continue to love this show. So feel free to send us suggestions to giveittothepeople.com and also give us a 5-star rating. We love those. Yes, everybody, we are back for another episode of Give It to the People Live. And today, just like every week, we have a great guest that's going to be on here today. So let me just tell you who I am and what Give It to the People Live is. So I'm Chisa Penix Brown, the Chief Curator over at Give It to the People. And we are a mental wealth company that is based in Greensboro, North Carolina. We help people to get their mind right and their money right. We do curated conferences. We do our wonderful podcast, which highlights BIPOC and women-owned businesses that, you know, we just really want to shine a light on those people because there are so many great people out here and oftentimes you don't know about them. And so our job is to make sure that you know about these businesses so that we can create more of a community. One thing that we love to focus on specifically is definitely Black business. And so we have another great Black woman-owned business. And I've known this lady for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years. And you know how you come across people and they have these great ideas. And I'm going to tell you, she is actually one of the things that I want to say is kind of like an inspirational story, because I think that you know where you want to go. And sometimes it's going to take you just a little bit of time to create that thing. And, you know, this is one of those stories. So I definitely want to bring on Efunsade. Hey, girl.
Hey, how are you today?
I am so marvelous. And I want you to tell them, because I know we did some counseling. I know, you know, we've done some things as far as even me being able to meet your sister and not even realizing it was your sister. So it's just so crazy because I was like, well, I know somebody. And she was like, that's my sister. And I was like, what? So yes. God just worked in mysterious ways. Okay.
All the connections.
Tell me, because I don't remember if I met your sister first or if I met you, but give us a little bit of background.
You met my sister first.
So,
you were actually in a photo somewhere
yes.
out in the World Wide Web. You met her first, and I kind of met her through you. Uh-huh. And so, like I said, we've done some counseling, we've taught some business stuff. I've been doing this for a minute, so it's probably, like you say, it's been probably about 4 or 5 years.
That's what I thought. Okay,
that we've been connected. So it's been great.
Yes, because your sister. Great. And so for anybody who doesn't know, we had which we still have, we're just getting ready to do some revamping to a nonprofit that we started called Real Glow Getters. And so that organization was meant to help women start, stay, and slay in business. And when COVID came, we had to focus on the business. So we kind of like let that go to the wayside a little bit. And then we said, okay, we're going to do some things later on, you know, to bring, I guess a different version of that back for people, because people have definitely been asking me, and I'm just like, okay, all right. But we got to get into the first quarter of the year because, you know, we stay focused. And you, just tell them a little bit of background about you and how you got started.
Okay. My background is I've always been a creative person. In 2020, because I've always done paper. And in 2020, I just kind of was focusing on the paper part, researching papers and doing all this other stuff. And then in 2022, I went way deep into the paper. But this is something I've always loved to do. I've always been creative. And then this year, we have really gone deep into the paper business. But I've been doing this probably for... I would say 4 years or longer, because I can go back when I was in high school and I was creating little journals and creating little cards and stuff back in high school and elementary school. So I think this is something that has, and then my dad always played in paper, and now my grandchildren are playing in paper. So I think this is a family thing where we just love to play in paper. So it's something that I love to do and something I love to be creative with. So I call it paper art, the art of paper. So it's just me taking all this stuff, because I remember going to the grocery store and seeing the Polaris brand where they had, like, it was really explosive. It wasn't anything, it was 3D-ish. So I really loved that. So that was my inspiration, was to take what they'd done and to create it, but for something where it represented us.
Okay. And, you know, when she's saying paper, I want you guys to understand, she means when you're taking paper as crafts, right? So you're taking paper and you're actually making things with them. And for anybody who doesn't know, I love to craft. I have been a little craft addict in the past. And my husband was like, there's too many things. You need to pick one thing because you got stuff all over the place. And so, you know, the thing is,
paper can be messy. It can definitely get all over the place. And so when you start to think about crafting, one of the things that I said that I thought was interesting, about your story is really taking the time to me, create, it's a retreat for you, right? So it's something that you enjoy doing and, being able to teach other people how to do things, but also making stuff for people. So tell me what you think about, because I think sometimes things are a lost art, like literally, right?
Yes.
And making something in paper means I'm going to physically give it to you, right? Like I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about what you like. And you do a lot of stuff that's custom. So can you give people some idea of like what goes into making a card? What is some of the things that people should consider? Because one thing is people always think, oh, well, why am I paying so much for that? But handcrafted work does take time and energy and the materials.
I think people really should consider, what is it? Like, I went to a craft fair this weekend, really a vendor show over at a church, and a lady wanted a piece of art that she was trying to give to her group. And I was like, okay, what size are you looking for? Do you need it framed? Do you need it not framed? What colors are you looking for? Are you looking for a specific color? So it's just like in any business. It's like, I'm asking the questions because my background has been it's been an executive assistant. So as an executive assistant, I bring those skills over and I ask like all the minute questions. When do you need this? And I'm going to pop up, something here in a few minutes, but it's the small stuff. It's really, for me, it's the smallest questions or the smallest thing. You're like, oh, I didn't think about that. But even in my creating of this piece, like this piece is like, they call it paper piecing. And so we took all of this and everything. This probably took me maybe a couple of hours because I had to sit and think about it. Like her hair is this and I painted it first. So if someone wants a piece like this, it's really art. I'm creating a commissioned piece of art. It's just not me just going out there and just pulling something off the shelf and saying, okay, here's the product. No, I have to sit down and strategically think about like, what is it that I need to do? So when someone comes to me and says, hey, I need a card. So, people at work come to me all the time. Hey, I need a card for my grandson. I say, okay, tell me something about your grandson that he wears glasses. He has swoopy hair. So I'll go and I'll be like, okay, what's his favorite color? And then I'll go and I'll just start to, because I'm inspired by, I say the Holy Spirit, because I get the ideas, but for me, it comes from a higher power. And so I'll start to go in and I'll create, and it's in my head. Like I see the image in my head. And I'll start to create all those parts and pieces. And then when I give it to the person, and again, because it's inspired by someone other than me, they'll say, oh, the card was amazing. Or this piece you created was amazing. And I'm like, okay, stop. What did I create? Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was so fun. I had so much fun doing that. So every time I do something, it's a work of art. It brings me joy. It's just like, I could talk about it all day, but it is so fun, so amazing. And even when I went to the craft show in Dallas this weekend and people was like, oh my goodness, like you created all of this. And I was like, yeah, like this is what I do. I bring joy to people. Like I love to do it. So.
And you know what, to be able to do that and be successful at it is also the effort that you put into it, because there are a lot of people that make things, but they don't actually turn it into a business. And I think that, you finding the type of people that are interested in handcrafted items, and that's what I say, artisan, handcrafted, bespoke items, you're speaking to a person that is understanding that this is a keepsake, that this is special, this is intricate, this is for this person, and they can see the extra effort that goes into it. I mean, I think that that's something that you're not going to get everywhere. It's not like you can go to Hallmark and get that, and so when you look at the work that goes into it, even for a small piece, I don't think sometimes people realize that thought process that you just told us. But what I do want to know about is, when you're doing this and along the way, I'm sure you've had some failure, right? And that's how we even got together. She was like, help me fix da-da-da. And I'm just like, okay, my first thing, especially with people who handcraft items, the first thing is always, how much are you spending? Because then we need to figure out how much you're making. And that was what we got to say. Like, ma'am, you are spending too much money on this thing to bring it down. Or we need you to raise your prices, right? So tell me, what was one of your biggest failures?
I think one of my biggest failures was probably I was spending a lot of money, and I think that's a failure. And then I wasn't seeing a return on the investment, right? But it was like I wanted to do this. So I think for me, at one point, I just wanted to be like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore because it takes too much time. So I think the failure for me, and I don't know if I count it as a failure, but it's, I think it was the giving up. Like I felt like giving up. For me, I felt like giving up, and I was like, but this is what you love to do. Yeah, I love to do it, but do I love it enough to keep going? So I think for me, that was a failure. And I think one day, something happened and it just clicked. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep trudging. I'm going to keep doing this. I don't care what anybody says. I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah, I know I'm spending way more because even this year, if I told you how much I spent on craft supplies, I'm like, okay, you got to figure out how to make that money back. Like, yeah, you got to figure out how to make that money back. And so actually for me, I'm getting ready to bounce into a mastermind where the lady is going to walk me through a year's process. And in a year, I will be way ahead of the game as to where I'm at now. So coming out of that failure, it's like, no, you can do a creative business. You can do all this stuff and you can make it a business and you can still do it and still love what you do and not be bogged down into the business part and the creative side of it. You can do this. So I think failure for me was, just giving up. It was, I can't keep doing this. I just can't, I think also for me, it was like, because I just recently stopped this because I used to give out free birthday cards. And I would just do randomly. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, hold up. And again, I did raise my prices because my prices were very low. And I think they were like $5 a card. And I was like, oh no, these cards got to be $10. I'm creating, and they probably need to be more than that with some of the ones I do. And so I was like, no, I'm stopping this program because this program, I'm sending cards to people. If I'm sending 10 a month, that's $100. And at the end of the year, that's $1,200 a year. Like nobody, I'm not spending $1,200 a year. That's my merchant. That's products I can be purchasing for something else, or I can be doing this, or I can be doing that. So it's looking at that failure has caused me to relook at everything and the way I do it. To be like, do you want to give up or do you want to keep going? Like, what do you have here? So.
But I like the fact that you've recognized that. And so when we can learn from our mistakes, that's the biggest thing in business is usually look and see where you need to cut back. And once you can figure that out, then you can say, okay, well, I can do without this. I might want that. And I think you also said something that was important to me. You have to decide on if you just want to do it because you want to do it, And so I remember, this is a quick story. My husband, I wanted to do a party. Now, the party came out really good. And he said, okay, so if you lose money, then you need to stop because that's the sign. And so he said to me one day, he was like, well, this is the thing. We lost money that one time. And he said, so are you going to keep doing this just because you want to do it? Or are you going to stop? Because we already had a plan. And he's just like, listen, if you do it just because you enjoy it, then that's fine. But we're not out here to be losing money. And you are not a party promoter. And I said, you know what? You're right. That's not my area of expertise, but I like to go to a party. I like the type of parties we do. And he was just like, okay, well, you're going to have to figure something else out. And so I think sometimes that stopping, it may direct you somewhere else, right? And then you put your energy there. Or you say, listen, I like what I'm doing, but I just need to reevaluate how I'm doing it in order to make it make sense, specifically financially. Now, if you could go back and talk to your 15-year-old self, right? All right, now we're going to take it back. If you can go to your 15-year-old self. Listen, now I know this only 5 years ago, right? If you can go back in 5 years. Right? Come on, girl, 5 years.
Back 5 years. That's 5 years.
What would you tell your 15-year-old self about this person that you have become? And would you say, give yourself permission to be creative? I can do this. What would you say to yourself?
Well, I think I've always been creative. I think the thing I would say is ignore the naysayers. Ooh. Ignore the people who are like, girl, look, you don't even know what you want to do. You're 15. No, but I do know what I want to do. I know because I think I was born into a creative family.
I believe
if you look across all my siblings, you look at my parents, and then I look at my children, I look at my grandchildren. That's 4 generations of people. I can't go before that. I've always had the creative, but I think for me, it would be ignore the haterators. Don't listen to anybody. Recently I was listening to The Alchemist, and he just was on his journey. It's like, it's your journey. Don't care about what other people say. That was what I would tell my 15-year-old self is, girl, you got this. You can do it.
Yeah, I love that. Now, some people honestly just really don't know who they are at that age. But I think that when you cultivate the energy to allow a person to express themselves, allow them to fail, allow them to try something new. And, you know, that's the kind of thing where this person can make decisions on if they want to do it or not. Right. And a lot of times when people are always telling you can't do something, there are plenty of people who will listen to that voice and who will not do it, you know. So I want to know something, because I want people to know, where did the name Ayotala come from for the company?
The name Ayotala came because I had a completely different name, of course. The name Ayotala, I was initiated into the Yoruba tradition. And when you're initiated and you go through your process of white, you're given a name. So the name Ayo came from my oldest sister, whose name was Ayotala, which means joy isn't of wealth. For me, what I do is all about joy. And then the Dara part, as you can see on screen, came from the second part of the middle name that I was given when I came out of the process. So from the Osundra, but when I did the research on Dara, the Yoruba tradition, I think is like God covers you or something like that. But in the Hebrew tradition, it means wisdom. So for me, it's joy and wisdom. So when I put those two together, which it did not come from me, it came from Holy Spirit. Again, all my stuff comes from there. It was Ayodara. And that was what the name was. That was the name that stuck. That was the name that most people remember. And I was just like, I fought it. I was like, I don't want that name. That's not the name I want. But that is where I got the name from. It was inspired by Holy Spirit. But it means joy and wisdom, because again, as you can see, I have a ton of gray hair. And joy. Joy is what I live by every day. Yeah. So
no, I get that totally. But I always want to know, like, when people have names that are way more unique, you know, like, what made you even come up with that? And I love when it has a meaning behind it. And also when that meaning actually expresses what you do, you know. And I definitely feel like with you being creative and making the cards that you do and being able to express that, it definitely helps people. So if people are looking and they say, okay, what kind of stuff can you make me? What's been like the most outlandish or maybe even the most detailed thing that you've had to do?
Well, recently a lady asked me to do a card for a cruise. She and her mother-in-law and her family, they were all going on a cruise. So she needed me to make a card, and I was like, okay, fine, let me think about that. Like, so I kind of asked her a few questions, and she was like, here's what, I don't care what you do it, but most people just give me the authority to be like, do whatever. So I had to come up with a scene for a cruise. And so that was probably the most outlandish thing I've done for a card. I'm like, okay, how would I do this? So, but again, the Holy Spirit said, okay, here's how you do it. Here's a scene. And so I go in and I try to create. And every time I do something that he hasn't given me, I have to restart over.
Well, I say you don't like it. Look, I was like, you don't like it. You don't like it.
It doesn't matter. Like, did I tell you to do that? No, I didn't. So I think for me, it was probably the cruise card. And then this past year, which I'll start again up in July, I actually did a set of Christmas cards. I was like, okay, let me see how I can do this. So I did a set of Christmas cards for a lady. She wanted about 15 cards. She didn't want a whole lot, but her family was like, okay, you can never, ever do any other cards. You can't go to Hallmark and get Christmas cards anymore. So for me, it was Christmas cards. That was another big project that I had to do. And I had to come up with a scene of a Christmas card and like what she wanted. And she gave me full carte blanche on how to do the Christmas cards. Like, do whatever you want. I know it'll come out. So yeah.
Okay. So when you're doing that, right, and you're creating the cards and you're coming up with this, if Hallmark were to ring your line, if they were to send you an email and say, listen, we want you to create a line or something for us, would you do it? Like, that's
of course.
Okay.
Of course, because what I would do is stuff has been happening. There's this line I'm creating called Ayo Angels. Okay. Which is in honor of my sister. So if they call me, yes, I would definitely be, because I've also bounced into a group. And this is the thing. I think when you're trying to go beyond and say this is more than the business, you have to start investing in yourself, right? So I've invested into this group where they actually teach you how to do licenses, how to do different things and part of your creative business to put you out there. They've given you the I call it the drip letters to say, hey, here's how you write this letter to these people over here. This is how you write this letter to Hallmark, to be able to get into that space, because a lot of people are in that space. but
not only are a lot of people in that space, what it does is it opens up other doors for you. So I really love the fact that you said, I'm investing in myself because there are parts that I don't know. And because I don't know those parts, then I need to take the time to spend to get into that. And when you're talking about getting into a mastermind group and those kind of things. And what's so interesting about that is people have asked us, they asked me in January, they were like, well, look, are you going to do a cohort of some type? And I was just like, well, I've been talking about it. I've been thinking about it. And they were like, yeah, we need more of you. And I was just like, well,
how much more?
Let me see if I can give you a little bit more. But you know what it is? And I'm going to tell you, this is the secret. Scarcity. Because being online for so long, and I think people want to be in person, and I think they want individual advice that's for them and things that are very specific, that's not startup stuff, it does make a difference. And I'm so glad that you said that about investing in yourself. Now, I do have a question in regards to when you actually are in the creative process. And I would think that, and I don't know if this is how you work, this is how I work. I need to know my colors first, because the colors give you a feeling. And then I feel like once I get the color palette down, then I can go ahead and I can kind of design. Like I need colors, fonts, tell me that type of stuff. And then I can, let you know, and it can evoke a feeling, right? So with you use like your favorite color. What is your favorite color? Do you start with the colors? How do you do it?
I typically start with the theme. Is it a birthday card? Is it a sympathy card? Like, what are we creating for, and who is the audience? Is it is it a mother? Is it a father? Is it a man? Is it a man? Is it a female or male or female? And then they may throw out a color, but typically I don't really look at color because I have paints. I have other things I can go in and color. So I tend to look at more of a theme based versus a color based. Or fonts, because I really don't use fonts per se. I have letters I can cut out, but I don't really per se use fonts. I mean, as a graphic designer, when I pull that part in, then yes, or as an interior designer or fashionista, then I'll pull that color part in first. But from a card standpoint, it's more about what's the theme, because we do our card stuff based on, because probably March 1st, I'm going to start taking orders for Mother's Day and Father's Day and Easter cards. So for me, it's more theme based, because it's like, okay, what's coming up next?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What's the next thing? What's the next thing coming up in the calendar? So we look at it from that standpoint, because that's what Hallmark is not worried about colors. We look at the bigger greeting card companies, they're not worried about colors. They're worried about, okay, what's the next holiday that's coming up?
And I like that. And we just is coming from a different standpoint, because I just need to feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's it going to feel like? So I understand with yours, you're like, listen, we need to make cards around this theme. And so then we can, the colors are secondary or even tertiary when it comes to something like that. But what is your favorite color? Mine is yellow.
Mine is yellow too. Yes.
I know that. All right. So why do you like yellow? What does that mean?
Yellow is joy. Yellow is love. Yellow is the it's the third chakra. It's not the sacral. I can't remember. I can't remember which chakra it is. It's in my head right here, but I can't think of it. But it's the chakra. It's more the core chakra. Is yellow is the core, because sacral sits beneath it, and then there's the root chakra. But yellow to me just exudes energy. Yellow to me just screams, "Hey, girl, I'm living my life like it's golden." It's a huge thing, like. Because I just created a piece that I painted and took it with me. It was called Living My Life Like It's Golden. The girl has on this really bright gold yellow top that, So I love the color yellow. I have always loved the color yellow growing up. So if I could have a yellow room, it would be yellow.
I could see that. And, I think yellow just is one of those things where it can be a lot. But then at the same time, if you got the wrong color yellow, it's like a different feeling, like that. We don't want jaundice yellow, But I mean, yellow is just that exciting feeling to me. And so that's why, I use it, and I've always used it in a lot of the stuff that we do in the logo and stuff, because I love, and energy is the thing that I definitely get from it. Yeah. So, just understanding that, I think that, it makes complete sense when you say what you do, and then how that comes out in your work. So when you're looking and you're saying, listen, I would love for you to be a client of mine, what type of people need to come to you to say, listen, I want you to make something for me? What are the people that usually come to you if they're thinking, look, I want to get something custom? What do they need to know?
They just need to know what they want, because I mean, I can help them and guide them through that process. But I have clients who come to me and I create custom thank you cards for them, whether it's with their brand, whether it's for their family. But most people, I think the clients I'm looking for would be the ones who are like, I know what I want. I know the thing that I need. And if they don't know, we'll work through it. We'll work through that process. It'll just cost you a little bit more because there's a whole different process to do that. Because everybody can't be your client. That's the truth. Yes. That's the true statement. But it's just people who are excited who are excited about life. Is what keeps coming to my head. Are you those who are excited about life, who love art? Your art lovers, your creatives, or people who just have this vision in their head of something that they want. Like I see it here. And this is what I'm looking for. But I would say it comes back to, do you know what you're looking for? If you're creative, if you're artistic, but just full of life. You're just coming, and let's just bring it. Let's just create together. Let's just do this thing together.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that being something awesome for, a company that wants to thank somebody. I could see it being great for a realtor if people just bought a house, because for me, just listening to you, it's the little touches, and you said the little details. Always the small stuff. It's the details. It's the little touches. Like if you're buying it for somebody else. And do you see that a lot of people will like frame your cards? Like I think
they do frame my cards. When people buy my cards, it's like, oh, I want to give this to my friend, but I want to keep it for myself. Can you make me another one?
Yep. And yes is the answer. Yes.
I even say the same thing to myself. I'd be like, ooh, I want to keep this for myself. Like, ooh, I want to keep this, but I know I need to sell it to somebody. But I'd be like, ooh, I don't want to give this one up. This one looks so cute. So so that happens like all the time. And then I've given something to people. I'm like, oh man, I gave those away. Now I wish I would have kept them for myself. But I'm like, but the point is to create. The point is to give joy. So that's why I say open your mailbox and heart. The joy is like, you just send them to somebody. I can recreate it, because I tell people no one will ever have these cards. You will not see these in the story. They will be only on my shelf, because that's just how I create. And everything I create, every single card is different. No cards alike unless I'm doing duplicates. And then those aren't even alike, because there may be a slight change.
Because they're handcrafted. Yeah, it's a little something, a little nuance.
Yes. And because we're actually going to start, Sacred Joy is our new component of Ayotala, which is where we go out and teach classes.
Come on, teach a class. I love that. Bring it to Greensboro. We got space over here.
It's going to be on the road. I just went down to Dallas. There's some stuff they want me to do. I talked to the head lady at Duncanville school system, and there was a few other people. I've already started here in Oklahoma where I live. I went to a first grade classroom. They were so excited. So I'm going to do a monthly project with that first grader. I want to be 6 years old again. So Sacred Joy is, it's the thing that I'm getting ready to, which is what this mastermind is also going to help me do. She's going to help me figure all that out, how the copy goes, and push that out into the world. So
I love that.
And it is here.
Here for the teaching, because art is not the same as it was in all of the schools. Everybody doesn't have access to it. And even for adults, like that is a thing that for us, when we talk about mental wealth, that it can help with your mental wealth when you're just sitting there doing, because you're focused on what you're doing and not on what's going on in the world, So tell people, how can they find you if they want to get their custom cards and if they want to do a class?
You can find me online at Ayotala, which is AYADARA.com. You can find me on IG, Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at Ayotala Company, all together. I haven't floated over to TikTok yet. But you can find me on all the
floating over there, though. I can see them.
See what?
I can see those cards floating on TikTok. I can see those little people just dancing and doing stuff.
YouTube. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, all at Ayotala Company. It's all one word. So all of those particular ones I'm on, but I would definitely say hit me on my website. Everything is there. All my links are there. How to connect with me is there. But yeah, I love what I do. I love it.
And I just love the fact that you are so we're leaving out of Black History Month and going into Women's History Month. And so anybody that's listening, continue to be creative, continue to invest in yourself, and just continue to keep watching, give it to the people. Like that's really what you need to do, right? Exactly. So I want to thank you so much for being on today. And everybody, if you're watching on the replay, feel free to still leave comments and feel free to share it. And if you were watching us live, thank you so much for watching today. We definitely appreciate you. And at the end, we like to tell you, make sure that you always show up and show out and you continue to give it to the people. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Give It to the People Live. We're here to help you with your mental wealth. And if you're looking for future events, you're looking for past podcast episodes, you're looking for our webinars or anything that can help you grow your business acumen, make sure that you visit giveittothepeople.com.